I have never worked with anyone who has more energy, more spunk, and more pure joy for the art of acting than Mr. Ernest Borgnine. You were very fortunate tonight to be hearing it from the horse's mouth. Mr. Ernest Borgnine.
Oh, man. Thank you. How are you, darling? Good to see you. All right. How are you? Sit down, sit down. Sit down, gang.
Wow.
You listen better out of that ear or this ear?
Which one do you listen better
Go
out of?
over here on this
Okay,
side.
all right. That's good. I talk better out of this side of my mouth. All right. 87 years old.
Oh, come on.
87 years old.
You look skeptical as hell up there. Are you skeptical? You don't believe it, do you? There you go. But you see, you got to have it in here. You got to keep happy. That's why you keep young. And boy, did we go through hell at some time when I first started out as an actor, believe me.
How many films now, Ernie?
Huh?
How many films have you done?
Up to the present day, I've done 170 films. And a few other little things. I did a lot of live television out of New York. And, but I really started at a place called the Barter Theater of Virginia. I came out of service, 10 years of the Navy in 1945. I went home, and after a couple of weeks, my mother said to me, well, gonna get a job or else, you know? So I decided, yes, I'd get a job, and I went out looking for work, and I'd see these young old men walking into these factories. To me, a factory represents a jail. I don't care how you look at it. You're going in there for 10, 12 hours a day, and you're just rot in that damn place. And of course, they pay you money for rotting, but not the way you want to be rotted. Anyway, I couldn't take it, and I didn't get a job. And I'd go out to the park or go to a movie or do something. And one day I went home rather disgruntled and disgusted, and I said, Mom, for 2 cents I'll go back on the service and do my other 10 years and get a pension. At least I'll have something. And out of a clear blue sky, she said, have you ever thought of becoming an actor? She says, you always like to make a damn fool of yourself in front of people. Why don't you give it a try? And so help me, I looked up. I was at the kitchen table. I looked up and I saw those golden doors open, and I said, Mom, that's what I'm going to be.
Now, had your mother had any experience in the theater or anything? I mean, this came out of the clear blue sky.
I think, actually, Lou, what was the whole thing was about, she had wanted to be an actress, so she took it out on me. No, she was a royal blood. My mother was a countess, believe it or not, and the little old white-haired gal was frowned upon, you know, when in her day to go out on stage or in the movies. Or they didn't have movies in her day; they had stages and everything else. But during the time that I was being brought up and everything else, and we lived in Italy and we lived everywhere, and we went to La Scala in Milan, and we did everything. And she saw how I used to play as well, you know, and I'd be playing cowboys and Indians for hours at a time, you know.
And you're still doing it.
Yeah, we're still doing it. That's right. Only getting paid for it
there
now.
There you go.
But it was the idea that she saw what was happening, and she kind of figured that maybe I could make a go of it. And so it happened that I said, okay, I was going to be an actor. But where to start?
And how old are you at this point?
I was 28 years old. And I know an awful lot of you are just about that age now, I hope. And you know, the idea is not to give up. Not to give up. That's the idea. I know we've both been through it. I know you have, Lou. And it hasn't been the easiest job in the world to become an actor. First, you got to have it here. Then you got to have it in here. And then if you can produce the two of them and put it somewhere where it belongs, then you can be an actor.
You got to have a little of this too, so,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. And so I started out by going to Yale University and seeing if I could get into Yale University. And they said, you'll have to take up 2 years of undergraduate study. And I said, what will that consist of, sir? He says, well, with your marks, he says, you got to start out with geometry, trigonometry, algebra, calculus, everything I hated in school was what I had to take up. And I said, sir, I don't mean to be nasty or anything else, but please, I don't want to be a scientist or a mathematician. I just want to be an actor. And so he laughed and he said, no, he said, you have to take 2 years of undergraduate study. So I went up to a little school up in Hartford, Connecticut finally, and found a school up there that was willing to take me on. And there were nothing but a bunch of kids just out of high school, 18, 19 years old. And I was the oldest one there. I'll never forget, the very first day, they brought me up into this class where they were reading. Now, in the Navy, you know, you read, but to yourself. You didn't read out loud because of the fact that you just, you know, people kind of look at you a little bit off, you know? So the teacher said, Mr. Borgnine, if you're going to be with us in this class, would you mind reading the next paragraph or two? I said, no, not at all. And so we were reading Thomas Wolfe, You Can't Go Home Again. And it was a beautiful description of America at night. I'll never forget. And I started to read, and I read pretty good. And I said, on the diamond sword, and she said, Mr. Borgnine, how do you pronounce the word D-I-A-M-O-N-D-S? I said, diamonds. She said, no, the word is diamonds. And I said, oh, shit.
I've gotten it wrong all these years.
Well, you know, I was still in the Navy, right? She said, no, the word is still diamonds. Well, I vowed then and there, by golly, I was going to prove myself. And in 3 months' time, I hate like a Dickens to pat myself on the back, but in 3 months' time, I was given the first good reviews ever given an actor in 14 years in Hartford, Connecticut, believe it or not. And I did Talthybius and the Trojan Women, if anybody of you ever done Trojan Women. And I also did, we also adapted a play that was called from VE Day, and we adapted it for the stage. And they thought it was just the biggest thing in the world. And after it was done and over with, I said, okay, I quit. I'm going back in the service. What? And the teacher wrapped my hand. How dare you? She said, you who have so much to offer. So this and that and the other thing. I said, ma'am, I said, this is hurry up and wait life, you know, and this is worse than the Navy ever thought of being. Because that's all it is hurry up and wait, you know? So she said, no. Well, this friend of mine enticed me to go down to a place called the Barter Theater of Virginia. And there we waited all practically half a morning long, and finally a Mr. Porterfield came up. And he had taken a bunch of hungry actors off Broadway and brought them down to the hinterlands of Virginia and started a theater. And it was Depression days in those days, and so instead of paying money at the box office, the farmers used to bring jams and jellies and milks and ham and everything else. And it was said to be by a wonderful comic in New York at one time that Bob Porterfield knows if he's had a successful season by just weighing his actors at the end of the year. But I started out there with, yes, I wanted to be an actor, and they forgot all about my wanting to be an actor. They gave me every job that they could possibly think of, including driving a truck, which I had never done before in my life. And I was up there scrubbing down flats and making flats and making scenery and sewing on costumes and lighting the theater and doing every possible thing that you can possibly imagine. Until one day they said, listen, didn't you want to be an actor? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we got a part for you. I said, oh, wonderful, where's my sides? And they said, no, you don't need sides. I said, I don't need sides? No. He says, you're going to play the union leader in the State of the Union. All you have to do is cross from stage right to stage left and look important. Okay. So I got myself a Kelly and a big cigar and a suit, with a vest. And I walked out there like I owned the place, at the proper time. And I walked across, boom, boom, boom. And who should be sitting in the audience but a critic? And she wrote a thing about that big on me. She said the only one that was believable was this man who played the role.
So out of your experience, I mean, and this is this is bus and truck stuff. This is regional theater. What valuable lessons did you learn? Really doing journeyman acting like that.
I learned one thing. You got to make those 35-cent seats up in the back hear you. Yeah. And I also learned that in this life as well, in making pictures. At one time, I was shouting, and the first director I ever had in Hollywood said, Mr. Borgnine, you see that little thing up above you? I said, you mean the microphone? He said, yes. He said, well, you don't have to shout anymore. We already hear you in the 35-cent seats. Just keep it down to $1.50.
And he still projects today. The sound mixer on this last film of ours, I'd speak and Ernie would speak, and I'd speak and Ernie would speak.
Well, you can hardly hear you at times.
Well, I'm a strong silent type, Ernie.
I know. So, but you see, that's why we have to put up our what-you-calls on the television when you guys like you come on, because they can't hear you. What are they saying? I don't know, but we're missing out.
You see, you got to Hollywood before Brando. I came after, so there's a whole generation of us that are screwed. But, at what point during this early, you said you were ready to give it all up at one point and go back to the Navy or whatever. At what point did you own this and say, I'm an actor. This is what I want to spend my life doing?
I think it was while we were doing shows, like we carried as many as 14 shows in our heads at all times, doing repertory at this theater. We went out traveling, and we went all the way from Williamsburg, Virginia, clean down through to Florida, and back again doing one-night stands 6 days a week. And you rested on the 7th, thank God. But believe me, it was a long, hard grind, but you learned. You played the different audiences. I remember one time in West Virginia, way up, like they have to pipe daylight in, for God's sake. So help me hammer. And we were playing Much Ado About Nothing. And it's a frothy thing and everything is my goodness. And everybody was sitting on their hands. And we played it up to it. Man, we were frothing at the mouth, believe it, trying to get a laugh. Nothing. It was the quietest audience we'd ever seen in our life. At the end of the show, they brought down the house. And we said, why didn't you applaud or do something? Said, we didn't want to miss anything. And that's the way they are.
Very polite.
Very polite. It's beautiful because here these people were so interested, even though it was Shakespeare, Really. And it's not the easiest game in the world, to play Shakespeare. I was very fortunate. I happened to be in the first American company to ever play Hamlet in supposedly its original setting over at Kronborg Castle in Elsinore, Denmark. We went over there through the auspices of the State Department with the Barter Theater of Virginia. And I want to tell you, we had a ball. We had a marvelous time. Of course, the Danes were up in arms the next day saying, "What's with the pistol shots?" and our man said, "Read the script." That was all there was to it.
So how did you make the transition from doing all of this wonderful theater work? And you did Broadway before you did films, yes?
Yes, I did, and I worked with Helen Hayes and Joey Brown and Jimmy Dunn, a whole bunch of people. But the very first day I went looking for work in television, I went up to this man, and I was a fast reader, you know what I mean? You could read on the spot, which is great, because if you can do it, this is one of the greatest things you can do, is to read, bam, 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 cold. And so this fellow said, "Here, take this script home." He said, "You look good to me." He said, "Take it home and read it." I said, "I'll read it right now, sir." No, I want you to take it home. I said, "Read it right now." He said, "Take it outside in the fire escape and just look at it." I said, "Okay." So I looked and came back. And we did the show. I did the reading for him. And he threw the script down. I said, "I didn't get the job, did I?" He said, "No, you got the job." He said, "But you just gave me a whole idea for a new show." It's crazy. But you know, you become so involved as an actor. You know, you want to make a good impression on people. You want to show that you can do it, that you got it here, that you know what you're doing. And there's sometimes you just come up against these people that just don't know from Adam. And it's a shame, it really is. I'll never forget when I went down to read for Marty.
Little Academy Award winning film for this man.
I was leaving. I was leaving the set of the picture that I was making at the time called Bad Day at Black Rock, and Spencer Tracy saw me and he said, "Hey," he said, "where are you going?" I said, "Sir, I got special permit to go out and." "Well, if anybody leaves here early," he said, "it's me." Kidding, you know. And he said, "Where are you going to go, Ernie?" And I said, "I've got to go down and read." "Read? God damn it, you're an actor. You don't read anymore. You're a star." I said, "Out of your mouth to God's ears." He wanted to know what it was all about. So I told him the story, and he said, "Gee, sounds good." He said, "Let me know how you make out. You're going to get it, don't worry." Well, I went down and met up with Patty Chayefsky and Delbert Mann, the director. And they had just flown up over the hills of Lone Pine, and they were kind of a little wheezy in the stomach yet from that ride. And as I walked in through the door, Patty Chayefsky was seated just like you. And he looked up at me, and he saw this man with a cowboy hat and a 3-day growth of beard and cowboy boots and dirty pants and everything else. And you could just see the wheels turning. He said, "This is Marty?" And I looked at him and said, "Hi, how are you?" You know, and so on and so forth. And went in to wash up a little bit before the reading. And when I came out, Delbert Mann said, "Ernie," he said, "we've worked together many times in New York and all." And he said, and we got to the word "but." And I knew something was wrong, because I could see Patty Chayefsky didn't like it too much. And I said, "Sir, I know we've gotten along famously." And I said, "But if you just give me the chance to read," I said, "I'd like to prove that, you know, if I'm not right for the part, hey, listen, I'll help find somebody for the part. But please, give me the chance." So he looked over at Patty. Patty said, "Okay, go ahead." Well, we started in. And right away he said, "Ah, darn it, I knew it. You're doing it with a Western twang." I forgot all about my first 6 lessons in acting, you know, the whole bit. And I said, "Just a moment." I kicked off the boots and threw away the hat and everything else, got myself all set. Okay, let's go. And we started in. And he was reading all the other parts, and I was reading mine, and we were going at it. And we got to the part where Marty says to his Mom, he said, don't you understand? I'm just an ugly, ugly man. After she had said, please put on the blue suit and gray suit. You know, I'm just an ugly, ugly man. And I turned away and I was crying. And I turned back and I looked at Patty and he had tears coming down his face. I looked at Delbert and he had tears and I said to myself, I got it. Man. Please. But you know, it was one of those great moments in one person's life when you know that you've made a strike and God bless it, it happened.
And so I just wanted to cut 18 days. Marty
we
was
shot the
shot
whole
in
picture in
18 days.
Yeah. Well, actually, think of this. They didn't want to finish the picture. The picture was supposed to be a tax loss, believe it or not. And I played the part for $5,000 and for the whole show. And a promise of $5,000 more if I signed for a 7-year contract, which I said, hey, man, I got work for the next 7 years, right? Doug. But I would have done it for nothing. Anyway, we shot the whole picture in 18 days. And when we came back from New York, they still had some work to do here at the Sam Goldwyn Studios. And there was nothing built or anything else. We had to wait. And then they finally built everything because their tax man said, no, you can't shelve it unfinished. You got to finish it, show it one time, and then you can take your tax loss. Well, make a long story short, they showed it one time and they couldn't stop, man. We took everything in sight, including all the awards, and it was the most wonderful thing I'd ever been in my life, but what else are you good for, right? And I got offers from Las Vegas, I got offers and I had stacks of scripts up to here, all wanting to be Marty or this or that, the other thing. And I said, no, I refuse. And I said to my agent, we've got to find something altogether different from what I did. And we finally came up with one. It was called The Best Things in Life Are Free, and it was a musical where I sang and danced and carried on like a fool, and I had the greatest time of my life with a wonderful guy with Mike Curtiz directing. Oh, what a guy.
So the night of the Academy Awards, well, you're up, are you up against Spencer that year, Spencer Tracy? I know you're up against James Dean Cagney.
I was up against Spencer Tracy, yeah. And,
he's sorry he gave you a pat on the shoulder going to that audition, I'm sure.
I was up against James Dean, who had just passed away, unfortunately, and Jimmy Cagney and Frank Sinatra, Man with the Golden Arm.
And so do you think you got a snowball's chance in hell?
No, that's why I fell asleep that afternoon. I really did, and my wife was going crazy. She said, how can you sleep when you're up for an Academy Award? I said, I'm not going to win. What's the sense of worrying, you know? And so easy does it. And when Princess Grace Kelly called out my name, I sat there and very complacent. Thank you, it was very nice. And my wife was saying, she called your name?
Oh my gosh. So, but that's like a crowning moment. It was a few years earlier that you had gotten Fatso Judson in From Here to Eternity. How was that process? I mean, that was an auditioning process as well, wasn't it?
It was a strange thing. I was in New York at the time. I had made one picture called The Mob with Broderick Crawford at Columbia, and the casting director liked what I did, and they also put me into another picture. At that time, they always made you do 2 pictures to pay off your return trip, you know? So I had to play a Chinaman, believe it or not. Every morning they put up my eyes like this with a wig, and off I went. And played a Chinaman for 7 days. We made a picture in 7 days. Bam, 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 and that was it. And they sent me back. And before I left, Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia, came up and with the casting director, and he said, "Oh, we want to put you under contract." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "We're going to give you $150 a week." I said, "Well, thank you very much, sir." I said, "But I can't do it." What do you mean you can't do it? We're offering you everything. What the hell do you want? You're with a studio here. You're going to work for 52 weeks a year. Pardon me. I said, sir, I'm married to a Jewish girl who refuses to leave her parents, you know? And goddamn Jews, he says they're all alike. And he's Jewish himself. Casting director said, don't worry. There'll be something coming up, and we'll think of you when the proper time. So here I am, going from pillar to post. At that time, I'll tell you the God's honest truth, it was so bad. I was walking up 10th Avenue one day, and I'm muttering to myself saying, why? Why did you ever get into this business? You could only come on television once a month because people didn't want to see your face all the time. That's what these people thought, you know? And so you starved along with the rest of them, and that was it. And I happened to be going along 10th Avenue, and I saw, smelled this wonderful smell of chestnuts being roasted. And I said, oh God, it reminded me of my mother when she used to cut the chestnuts and put them on the stove, and the whole house would be permeated with that wonderful smell. And I went up a little closer, not to buy any, because I didn't have money enough to buy a chestnut, but just to smell, you know. And I saw a sign on this vendor's cart that became my philosophy of life and the title of my book when it comes out, right, Harry? And its sign read, I don't want to set the world on fire, I just want to keep my nuts warm.
Words to live by, ladies and gentlemen. Words to live by.
And so that's all I've ever done. You know, you're only as good as your last picture. And, you know, you think, oh, some of these people think, oh, God, we got it made now. I'm making $20 million a picture. Yeah, but what about tomorrow, buddy? Mm-hmm. That's what you got to think of. As actors, that's what you got to think of. Because there's a tomorrow and another tomorrow after that. And if you don't salt something away while you're doing this wonderful business of ours, believe me, you can hurt in the end, you know? That's why thank God we've got this foundation. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely.
I applaud the foundation. I really do. God bless them. But they're watching out for us and they're thinking for us, and that's great. It's good to know.
Well, at one point you were a board member of the Screen Actors Guild.
That's right.
What motivated you to run for the board, and how was your experience with that?
In those days, Ed Asner was a president. Charlton Heston had just been president. And there were things happening, you know. Charlton wanted things his way. Ed Asner wanted things his way. And we were caught in the middle. And so, you know, there'd be winks here and winks there and so on and so forth. And who's driving the store, right? Who's minding the store? You're just saying to yourself, well, we're going to pass this thing or aren't we? What are we going to do? And it's kind of crazy, you know, to see the upper crust working amongst themselves, not thinking of us right here. These are the people that count.
Absolutely.
These are what they're working for, not to see how big they can be. Listen, Charlton Heston did a lot of good work in his days, so did Ed Asner, so did everybody else. But let's think of the troops. That's the one we want to get out of the sun and into the shade, remember? That's us. Okay. God bless you all.
It's amazing. But it's true, and you know, I say this every time I get an opportunity to moderate. You know, it's wonderful that you've come out tonight and that you're taking part in your guild and your union and you're being active members. But that's what we need. You know, we need every single person to stand up and to own their rights and their privileges as Screen Actors Guild members, because we all work hard to be here. You know, stand up for each other.
Lord knows we worked hard. You bet you believe it. We got that little thing that says SAG. Mm-hmm. You're a Screen Actors Guild member, by golly. It's. You know, I'm very proud to be an actor. To me, it's everything. Because of the fact that I can hold my head high along with the rest of them and say, by golly, my profession is just as good as yours, if not better, because we bring enjoyment to people. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Not only that, but we leave a legacy. We leave a legacy. On that screen up there, man, this is what counts. You better believe it. And 30 years from now, and they say, by God, look at that guy. He was pretty good, wasn't he? Yeah? Ah, gee, that's nice. I like that, you know?
Oh, they're still running them. Are you
That's
kidding
what we
me?
should do. Huh?
Yeah, I was, as I said, I had the great honor of working with this amazing man, and you've seen his work on screen. You know, you've heard interviews with him. His work ethic is amazing. He would never leave the set. At 87 years old, I figured, you know, he deserves to go to the trailer every once in a while. He would stay on set to change his clothes. He was there from dawn till dusk, 12, 14 hours a day, however long it took. Where does that amazing work ethic come from? Could you tell people a little bit about, you know, the joy you have for your work?
I learned a great lesson from Jimmy Stewart. We were out in this weather making the flight of the Phoenix. And it was out in the middle of the desert. Thank you. I thought it was a heck of a picture, too. But you know something? I learned a great lesson from Jimmy, who never left. But Bob Aldrich, the director, would stop in the middle of a shot and he'd say, that man up there that's driving the truck along there, spreading all that water, does he have something to drink? And he'd ask the first AD, and he said, well, I don't know. Find out. That's what it's all about. That's nice. For those people, for people like that, you would die for, believe me. And so you learn. You see, I've seen so many actors, the minute that they finish a scene, off comes the clothes, ba-boom, ba-bam, ba-bim, and they got to go to the bathroom, or they got to go to the lay down because they've given such a tremendous performance and everything else. And you know, they've got to rest up for the next scene. Well, this is where the work is, not back there. And if you stay right by your work, they don't have to call you anymore. And maybe it's noticeable to you, but to me it's the most natural thing in the world to do, is to find a chair close by and wait for your turn. When your turn comes, you're ready.
Mm-hmm. And he was Johnny on the spot every time. Unbelievable. And just, I don't think I've worked with a more giving actor, and one who makes you happy to be on the set.
Well, let me tell you something else about this Mr. Lou Diamond Phillips.
Diamond.
Nicest man you could ever work with, believe me. I say that with true feeling, because this is a real man. God bless him. And it was a great pleasure. And I hope we do it again.
I hope
Lou.
we do it 100 times. Are you kidding me?
I hope so.
I would feel fortunate to do half the work that you've done in your
please.
amazing career. And when you sit here and listen to this man rattle off the names that he's, you know, of the people that he's worked with and who had the privilege of working with him, it's, you know, this is the history of Hollywood right here. It's just amazing. Yeah. I want to go back to From Here to Eternity, because that was really sort of your breakout role that put you on the map as far as pictures are concerned.
As I said, you know, I was down and out, and I had a wife at that time and a baby, and I'm doing everything I possibly can. And a friend of mine was delivering mail on the side, you know, postcards and everything else. And I said, gee, do you think if I came to the post office with you, I could get a job delivering mail? He said, sure. We were off to go next morning, and that night the telephone rang. And it was the casting director whom I had worked for in Columbia. Mm-hmm. He said, how soon can you get out here to Hollywood? And I said, why? He said, because we'd like to have you play Fatso Judson in From Here to Eternity. Mm-hmm. Now, believe it or not, when I had read the book about two and a half years before that, I finished the book and I said, knowing there's a God above, I'm going to play the part of Fatso Judson. Don't ask me why or how or anything else, but I could see myself playing that role. And so when he said that, I looked up and I said, thank you, God, believe me, because it's as if my prayers were answered. And I went out there with the idea that I had to be the meanest, no goodest, dirtiest SOB in the world with a smile. Right? That's the way to kill them. And it happened. Later on, it became so prevalent that even the cops were looking at me rather askance. And one night I had a hot pizza on Ventura Boulevard, and I was going home, and I made a big U-turn on Ventura Boulevard. Oh, you can't make a big U-turn on Ventura Boulevard.
Still.
So I had the card out, and then I'm waiting for this man. And the policeman came up, and I handed him my card, and he looked at the card. And he looked at me. He looked at the card. He looked over at his compatriot, and he said, "Hey, Joe, guess what? I caught the son of a bitch killed Frank Sinatra." And gave me a ticket. So help me God.
So this is a huge break for you. It's it's an incredible. You're working with Monty Clift, Frank Sinatra, Burt Lancaster, and how are you feeling about this? I mean, you stepped onto the set.
The very first morning, I was agog. I mean, I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? I looked at all these people around me, and the very first thing we were doing that dance, that they were doing over there, and I'm playing the piano, and I said to myself, "Oh God, I'll never make it through this day because they're going to fire me, sure in the dickens." And Frank Sinatra, God bless him, I never forgot, as we started this scene and everything else, and he looked up there, and where I'm playing the piano, he said, "Come on, Fatso," he said, "we're trying to dance here and you're making it all turn out bad." And I started to slowly get up, slowly. And I stood up, and he said, looked up at me, he said, "Jesus Christ, he's 10 feet tall." It broke the ice. My God, I could kiss him right then and there because it broke the ice, and from then on, I was set. And
any advice from Monty Clift?
And Monty Clift, believe me, was one of the most beautiful people I have seen in many, many a day. What an actor! It was wonderful to just talk to this man, and we talked for hours, and it was just like home folks, you know what I mean? Just like you and I, just easy does it, talking about this and talking about that, and it was the most wonderful person in the world. We were doing this one Saturday afternoon. We were working Saturdays in those days, and I saw this couple come through the stage door over way down the line, and we paid no mind, and the people kept coming up, and they circled around back and were gone, and suddenly I felt their huge arms come around, and it embraced me, and a voice said in my ear, "You're the son of a bitch I wrote about in From Here to Eternity." And that was James Jones, the author. God, what a thrill. I looked up at him and said, "There'll be more." God bless him. But it gives you such a thrill to know that you're doing something right. And that, look at Harry Cohn. Harry Cohn didn't want Frank Sinatra. He said no way. He didn't want Frank in his picture for nothing. Something convinced him. I don't know what. But something convinced him.
Did he have a horse?
Huh?
Did he have a horse?
Anyway, after Frank won the Academy Award, Harry Cohn said, "That's the greatest bit of casting I ever did in my life."
So your career has over a half a century. Over a half a century, you've been in this business, still working today. We all have, these moments, when it goes up and it's down and it's not going your way. How did you deal with those slow periods? I mean, do you have any advice for anybody who's struggling or how did you personally get through those times when the phone wasn't ringing?
Well, I'll tell you, if you've got the time and you're not looking for work, or if you got a spare moment or two, pick up a newspaper, read it aloud. Does it make sense to you? This is what you've got to do, is to break down newspaper articles, books, everything. In your own mind, work out a scene from what you read in a book. This is the way to do it. I mean, this is the way I do it. And I continually am shaping up all different kinds of scenes as I'm reading a book or reading a newspaper, or what's actually happened that they want to describe here in this picture or in this paper. And read aloud. Enunciate so that you're understood all the time. This is what it's all about. Practice your craft. Practice and practice and practice, like a golfer. See, a golfer always gets out there and swings. Even though he's not hitting a ball, he gets out there and swings. Why? Because he's practicing. And this is what an actor should do as well. And there's so many times that people say, oh, acting, that's, but can you do it?
Right.
That's
right.
the idea.
The way I've always put it, actors act. Acting, it's an action verb. You don't sit around and talk about it, you do it. And if you want to feel like an actor, you want to be an actor, act. And unfortunately, too many of us wait for someone else to give us a job to do that. Like you said, you make your own opportunities and you find a way to ply your craft so that you constantly feel like an actor.
Exactly, exactly.
So was it 1962 that McHale's Navy started?
1962.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
you've got this, yeah. You got this viable film career. You just won an Academy Award. The film offers are coming in. Why did you decide to do TV at that time? And now it's interesting because today there isn't as much of a,
Maybe it was ego. I don't know. But let me tell you a story. My agent called and said, listen, Ernie, I just come back from Italy from making some pictures over there. And he said, I know you've been working and everything else. He said, but we got a television show here called McHale's Navy. I said, oh. He said, I know you love the water. You were in the Navy for 10 years. He said, you're playing this lieutenant commander and so on and so forth. That's fine. And he explained it all to me. And I thought it over for a moment. I said, no. I said, I'll tell you. I'm a motion picture actor now. I've done television. I said, I'm a motion picture actor. I'll stick with motion pictures. Well, he said, if you change your mind, let me know, because you said, we're getting this thing underway. We'd like to have you. Okay. The next morning, as the good Lord would have it, came a knock on the door. Some young kid from the valley is selling chocolate bars for some high school out there. They want to build a gymnasium. And, oh, yes, okay, I'll take some. Sure. How much? And I'm digging for the money. And he said, sir, he said, your face looks awfully familiar. What's your name? And I mentioned the name of who's this fella? What the devil's his name? I said,
James
my name
Arness.
is James Arness. He said, no, he does Gunsmoke. I said, no, my name is really Richard Boone. He said, no, he does Have Gun Will Travel. I said, well, if he goes around the corner here, you see the Oscar, the whole bit, I said, I'll get him my name now and he'll know it. I said, my name is really Ernest Borgnine. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. And he said, gee, I know I've seen you. I said, thanks a million, son. Here's your money. Send him on his way, put down the chocolate bars, call my agent. Said, that park still open? I said, yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
So he said, what changed your mind? I said, none of your damn business.
Oh.
A year later, I'm up in Oregon after the first season. I'm looking for a place, to spend the night. And I opened the door of this place, and the guy looked at me and said, McHale, what are you doing here? Oh, God. said, thank God for that kid.
Oh,
In
that's
Australia, everywhere I went in the world, you talk about motion pictures, television's got it beat, believe me.
Yeah.
If you're in a good show, stick with it, kid.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Friends either.
That's what we're doing here tonight, mister. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you seen the business change over 50 years? I mean, there's a few changes going on out there.
I've seen a lot of incompetent people come in. And it starts up at the top, believe me. There was a great picture one time made about Hollywood, and Humphrey Bogart was in it. He played a director of a motion picture. And somebody else, I've forgotten the name now, but, there was this English actor that was in it. And he played a lawyer that came from Hollywood to see if, how to make the studio run. And that's what happened to the business. Once they allowed the lawyers to come into the business, unfortunately, things started to change. And it wasn't that esprit de corps anymore. There were no more studios. No one to give you a job for 50 weeks out of the year. It was, you had to go out and really start pounding. And if you didn't, you were lost. And some people were kept on, for this or that and the other thing, but the whole business changed when that bunch of lawyers came in and started to take over. Now, incompetent not only in the sense of lawyers who didn't know from scratch, all they could see was what's the bottom line of what the studio doing? How much money are we making? They didn't care about pictures. Pictures to them were nothing. But there was also the directors who came. People that, I went one day, and a fellow says, would you like to read? I'd like you to have a read for us. And I looked at him, and the director, the producer said, good God Almighty, he's got an Academy Award. You don't ask him to read. I said, no, I tell you what, I wouldn't read for you anyway. I said, Spencer Tracy told me one time that I'm a star and I don't read anymore. And he looked at me, and they were going to make a picture, believe it or not. The thought that goes back, it was one with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep was dying of consumption, and he was a has-been ball player who was trying to make his way home, and they wanted me to play a man selling, going around with like an old sheeny, what we used to call the old sheeny, picking up rags and bones and things like that, and give him a ride on my cart. And I said to the director, after having read the script, I said, sir, who's going to see this picture? A picture where everybody's dying. There's nothing here that really pertains to people making people happy. He said, how dare you? He said, I wrote the script, now I'm going to direct it. And I said, yes, and good luck, sir. I said, you'll need it.
That one didn't do so well.
It lasted one day. Mm-hmm. It was out.
Yeah.
Never even seen it on television.
Yeah. And you worked with Shelley Winters. Your audition story reminded me of one of my favorite stories. Shelley goes into this audition for a young director, and she's got her big bag with her, and she understands that she's supposed to come in and read. And so they have a wonderful conversation. She's, a lovely lady, and he finally gets around to. He says, "Well, Miss Winters, if you wouldn't mind, auditioning for me." She says, "Oh, certainly." Reaches into her bag, pulls out her 2 Oscars, and goes, "Here, that's my audition."
We did that one time. There was a director of photography and we were being hounded a little bit by this director who was shooting McHale's Navy, of all things. And he wanted to show his importance. And I said, hey, bring your Oscar tomorrow morning. said, why? I said, good show. So he brought his Oscar in. And just about the time he started to, we put it on the table and said, you were saying, sir? Never bothered us again.
All right, we're going to take some questions here from our lovely audience. This is from Jack Kander. Okay, well, unfortunately, we've already answered that one. How did McHale's Navy and you get together? Your background was as a dramatic actor, so we got that one. This one is from Victor Vallejo. Of all the acting roles you've done, which is your favorite and why?
I get asked that every single day, believe it or not. My last picture with Lou.
I'm the same way, man.
That's my favorite.
Just happy to be
Really,
working.
you know,
Yeah.
I've made, you know, thank God I've had the good luck to be able to be in good pictures. But your last picture is the best that you made. And it should be that way. You brought entertainment to people. And if you can say, my last picture was the best I have ever done, man, that's good. That's what it's all about. And so people say, they're rather disappointed when I say that because, you know, they say, well, gee, Marty or Bad Day at Black Rock or From Here to Eternity or this or that. I have one that I like very much that I made with Lee Marvin called Emperor of the North.
Oh, yeah.
I played the meanest, no goodest, dirty dog. I used to go home at night and say to my wife, am I really that bad? I mean, am I really that kind of a character that's so bad? And she said, I don't know. But it was really something. And to me, acting is the most wonderful profession because you can be a bad guy one day and the most brilliant, wonderful, nice guy the next, and you're a pilot here, and you're riding a horse here, and you're, hey man, look, I'm out in the open ocean, look at me. And it's the greatest thing in the world. We have ourselves to thank for this because believe me, what we're doing is absolute. People would love to be able to do it. And they don't get a chance, and we want the chance, right?
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I think my favorite job is always my next one.
Go ahead.
This is from Robert Catrini, arguably the best Western ever made, and certainly my favorite of all time, The Wild Bunch. Can you talk a bit about your fellow cast, Holden, Ryan, Sanchez, Johnson, Oates, O'Brien, and of course, Sam Peckinpah?
Well, you'd have to start with the cast first. William Holden, in my estimation, was one of the most brilliant, most beautiful actors in the world. God bless him. He's a great man. Warren Oates, the same thing. Brilliant actor. Ben Johnson, when he stood up and got his Oscar, he said, I think I deserve this. God bless him. The best, the best. And we were in a picture that we didn't question it. We didn't question why this or why that. We just did it. And we knew where we were, what we were doing, and where we were going. And we worked from 12 to 16 hours a day out in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. And we worked with a man whose eyes you never saw. I like to look in a person's face and look at his eyes because this is what it's all about. Just to get away for a moment, how many of you enjoy seeing people with dark glasses on in motion pictures? Any of you? I don't. I think it's terrible because you don't see their most expressive things in their face, the eyes. This is what counts. And people hide them. Why? Because, number one, they've got it over their directors, and this is what I do, and this is the way I'm going to do it, and that's it. And the director, God bless him, and many times says, no, you can't, you know, and they don't care. They put it on, that's it. But Sam Peckinpah always wore dark glasses. And I said, that son of a gun, I tell you, it infuriating. We did a scene one time in The Wild Bunch where we're evaluating what we have done so far and what are we going to do next by a campfire. And Bill Holden's in his bed, and I'm in mine, and Eddie O'Brien comes down and gives us some hot coffee. And I said, where the heck did you find him? And what a character actor. What an actor he was. Edmund O'Brien, the best. And so we're talking back and forth. And finally I say, well, that's the way. I wouldn't have it any other way myself. And I rolled over and went to sleep. And the camera kept grinding and grinding and grinding away. And I said to myself, somebody fell asleep at the switch. Somebody didn't say, nobody said a word about cut. Finally, I heard a kind of a strangled cut. I waited for it to die down and looked over at Sam Peckinpah, and the tears are coming out from underneath his dark glasses. And I said, you dirty son of a so-and-so, now I got you pegged. He was afraid to show his emotion. He was afraid. But he was quite a guy. He loved actors. He'd stay for hours. I watched him one time in a picture called Convoy. When the picture was finished and a man saw the picture, he said, I didn't even know I was in the film. But he took his time with him, and he brought it all out of him. And it was wonderful to watch. And he was that kind of a person. But anyone from the IATSC that didn't do right, pow, he was gone. He used to fire his AD 30 times a day, and the fella just said, okay, next shot right here. Here we go. And that's the way he went. But it was wonderful. And when we went to Jamaica, they had a symposium of pictures, of which The Wild Bunch was one of them. And they were shown all in 5 days' time. And the next morning, they'd have a discussion about the picture. And the very first question out of the box the next morning was, after having seen the film, and we were kind of saying, gee, we got a pretty good film here, you know? Doggone. And the very first question was, why was this picture ever made? How are you going to answer that? And our hopes were really dashed because they said, oh, this is the most terrible picture we've ever seen in our lives. And why? And on opening day, when it hit the thing, we read the papers, and it said the greatest Western ever made. Mm-hmm. Now you figure it out.
Yeah. Well, it was the first time any of that had ever been done. It changed the face not only of Westerns, but it probably set the pace for action films, everything that followed. I mean, Sam Peckinpah is a landmark director because of it, and he had the vision to do it, which was amazing. This is from Miss Delaware. And she must be in a fine state. Anyway, what was the... thank you, folks. Thank you here all week. What was the most challenging role within your career? And P.S. God bless you, Mr. Borgnine. She is in a fine state. Most challenging role?
I think between the two, the Poseidon was one of them. And yeah, the Poseidon, and the next one I made immediately. I had a weekend off, and then we started Emperor of the North the next week. And I said, oh God, won't it be great to get out of all that, to go up to Oregon and get all that beautiful weather and everything else, and you know, get out of this smog and the dirt and the heat. And we had to actually walk through a shower in order to get on the set, you know, because you were supposed to be wet in the Poseidon. Well, make a long story short, we went up there to Oregon. The very first day is the fog was all set in by mechanics, you know, all these mechanical machines had to have a fog. And so there we were, right back in the smog again, and the heat, and everything else. So I think between the two of them,
Those were just two physically grueling pictures. I mean, the kind of shape you had to be in, the stamina that you had to have.
you had to be in pretty good physical shape, yes. It was quite a thing. I've always tried to stay in pretty good physical shape, and I guess it shows. But people say 87. My God, there are times when I do feel 87. But there are other times when I feel like 25 again. I swear to goodness. You just want to get out there and hustle, man, and let's do it now. That's what life is all about. And if you keep that hustle in yourself and that esprit de corps and that feeling, doggone it, you're all going to make it. Believe it. Take my word for it. You'll make it. You'll do it.
Yeah. This is from Norma Barber. Norma's going, oh, it's me. Hi. How's your wife doing? I met you at Arrowhead and your wife did my makeup. You were getting ready for The King and I. Did you do The King and I?
What's that?
Oh, I was getting ready to do. Oh, my wife's fine. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, how fantastic. This is about him. Oh, well, thank you. Thank
My
you.
wife's doing fine. She's in Germany, believe it or not. That's the woman, I tell you, my fifth wife. I never got married. I never got married to get divorced. Now, that's a fact. That's a fact. This is Tova. And Tova and I have been married now for 31 years. Going on 32. It's a fact. The others, I don't know. It was. I had my first wife was fine while we were poor. When I got the Academy Award, suddenly she put on the dark glasses. She became the star, and this and that and the other thing. And finally I said, come on, who needs this? So that was it. I was married to one that only for 32 days, for heaven's sake.
There's no
enough of that.
like show business
Yeah.
like. Okay, giving you a little hard time there. This is from Frank McCumber. I heard you had double knee surgery. How are the knees?
Great. Honest to God, I can get out and dance right now. Not bad, huh? Yeah. Really good. Dr. Dorr, in case you're interested.
Listen, we had him up on a horse and everything, man. This man is spry as they come, I tell you.
I want to tell you something. Everybody said, oh, God, he's got to get on a horse. I did a picture one time, the long ride home. And I hadn't been on a horse for a long time. And people actually came in from Germany, from everywhere, France. God, they wanted to see Ernest Borgnine get on a horse. Really. So the great moment came. They had the horse and everything else. I said, okay, bring the ladder. They brought the ladder. I got up on the horse. I said, okay, here we go. Everybody went, but what? I'm on a horse. What do you want? That's what it, hey, John Wayne used to get on with a ladder. Believe it or not, he did. He did. Sometimes you see him step very lightly. He was already on the horse. Oh, God.
Those all the tricks.
One time I said to John, we were in our cups one night. We were sitting over there at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and our wives were talking, and he said, God damn it. And he said, we've known each other forever. He said, how come we never worked together? And I was feeling pretty good, and I said, because you're afraid to work with good actors. He laughed. My God, he laughed. But the night that they showed True Grit over at the Screen Directors Guild, and he was sitting right behind me, and I tapped him on the leg when it was all over, and I said, Duke, I said, you just won yourself an Academy Award. And Jimmy Stewart came over and said, God damn, Duke, you're going to get nominated for an award. It's all right. By God, he won.
Yes, he did.
He won.
Deservedly so. Man. From Edwin McCready. Have loved all your work. Which actress was the favorite one you worked with, and which actor?
Which actress?
And which actor?
Believe it or not, I had a ball with not only one picture, but two pictures with Betty Davis. She was a cracker, I'll tell you, man. She knew your lines, her lines, everybody's lines. And you better know yours, kid, because if you didn't, take a hike. And the very first morning of shooting The Kate of the Fair, I'll never forget. We were there, and Richard Brooks was the director, and he used to eat actors alive. He didn't care too much for actors, but he made it known too. And we were having a little bit of difficulty with the very first scene, and somehow or other just didn't gel. And he said, all right, he said, I got to go back and behind the camera. He said, I've got to check it out. Work on this scene a little bit, see what you can do with it. I'll be back. Okay. And I said, I didn't want to bother anybody, and I said, ma'am, I said, if you forgive me, I said, I think it's a matter of timing. What, timing? Yes, timing. So I showed her how it worked. I said, let's try it. So boom, bam, bim, we did it. And about that time he came back, he said, all right, let's see what you can do with that damn scene here. She said, Richard, you weren't watching. I said, why, what's the matter? I said, well, Ernie here figured it out. Goddamn thinking actors. I went into hibernation. I said, oh my God. It's all right, let's do the scene. Boom, bam, bim, we did it. Bam, bam. And it was done. Now we all repaired over to the next scene where I'm getting into bed after driving my taxi all night long. And he got everybody there, and put down the racing sheets, do this, do that, come over here, everybody around here. I want you to see what's going on. Boy, quiet. And I'm standing on one side of the bed, and he and Betty are standing over on the other. We're waiting instructions. And out of nowhere, he said, all right, Mr. Borgnine, what do you got in mind for this scene? So I said, sir, I don't know where it came from or what. I said, sir, have you ever heard that wonderful story about the drummer boy down south who was dragging along these suitcases all day long, going to different farmers? And finally, he came to this one farmer at night, and he said, sir, he said, I can't go on anymore. Can I sleep in your haystack tonight? He said, no, no, no. He said, my boy has a big bed tonight. He said, you sleep in his bed, and you'll eat with us. Oh, thank you very much. And he had his dinner with them, and bam, went right up to bed and got into bed. Pretty soon a little boy came up, and he got down, got at his side of the bed and bowed his head. And all this quiet, you know, everybody's listening, nobody's saying a word. And he bowed his head, and the man cocked open one eye, and he said, gee, look at that. I haven't done anything like that in years. So he got down on his side of the bed and bowed his head. And the kid looked up and he said, mister, what you doing? He says, I'm doing the same thing you are, son. I said, gee, mom's going to be awful mad. The pot's on this side. He never bothered me again. Betty let out a whoop, boom, that was it. I tell you.
Oh my goodness. Actor, do you have, my God, the list of actors you've worked with is amazing. Is there anyone that just stands out as somebody that really touched you?
It really touched me?
Yeah.
In what way?
Not in a Michael Jackson sense. No.
No, but I mean, how do you mean?
No, do you have a favorite actor, somebody that you really enjoyed working with, or who became a lifelong friend, or anything along those lines?
Well, I've watched you for a long time, and I enjoyed watching you, believe me, and working with you. It's a real pleasure.
Put me right up there with Spencer Tracy and Jimmy Stewart and all those guys.
I'll tell you who I liked very much, and I like, what the heck's his name? Dirty Harry.
Oh, Clint.
Clint Eastwood. Because he shows it like it is and makes no pretenses, you know? And the other one was Charlie Bronson. I mean, you know, you get that look from Charlie and you withered. You just died, man. He didn't have to do anything else. He was that kind of an actor. Very intense, but a heck of a guy. We nearly got killed one time by a bunch of Mexican soldiers. We were making a picture called Vera Cruz with Burt Lancaster and Gary Cooper. And we'd run out of cigarettes. And we took our horses. We're going to go down to this little town and get some cigarettes. And a whole bunch of soldiers went by, you know, standing up in the truck. Hola, hele. And we dressed up as bandits, you know. And, you know, and we're going down, and suddenly we heard, reach, you know, alto. What is it, alto? And we looked around, and they got all their guns leveled at us. And they thought we were actually part of a gang from this senator who was trying to create a hell of a fuss down in Mexico. I said, no, estamos artistas too. I tell you, it was what a mess.
Unbelievable. The very first day I worked with this man on this Western, and we had just met, and we were chatting, and then I went off to do a walk-in to this little shanty town that we were doing. And Ernie's sitting over on his mark, and right before the take, he looks up at me and he goes, "Oh my God, Lou, you look like Charlie Bronson." I was made. I was made for the rest of the show. I thought if Ernest Borgnine thinks I look like Charles Bronson, I'm off. I'm good. Yeah. This is from Lisa, and I hope I get this right. Lee Joy. I'm sorry? Thank you. All right. I don't even really speak Spanish. I met you at... No, I know. I fake everything. It's okay. I met you at Universal Studios. You were wonderful and gave me a big hug. What was it like to be honorary mayor, and what was it like to win an Oscar? Honorary mayor.
Honorary mayor first?
Yeah.
It was a little, you know. I was honorary postmaster, too, over at Universal. You know, it was just a little thing that they all cooked up, you know, to make things a little easier, you know, and all that sort of bit. It didn't make it easy. It didn't give you any more money for it either. Not a thing, but it was nice, you know, hey. So I was the first postmaster general of Universal, and one of the mayors, and when I took the oath, I put up my left hand instead of my right, and they said, no, you're right. I said, no, Lou Wasserman does it this way.
Oh!
I don't think they like that.
I just wanted to know he looks exactly like my stepfather, who's 2 years younger than you. God bless you both.
God bless him.
Exactly like him. I'm honest to God.
Is he in pictures?
No. They all love you in my house, and they talk about being your double. We just love you.
Thank you.
This is from
Give
Darren.
my best.
Okay.
This is from Darren Sargent. In the movie The Devil's Rain, was the makeup hard and uncomfortable to work with, and how long did it take to put on each day?
Devil's Rain. Believe it or not, it was made with mafia money. I didn't know it. I swear to God. They still owe me $25,000. I'm not going to ask for it, I'll tell you. But I went down because it was a challenge again. I said, look, if Spencer Tracy and there was another wonderful actor, what the heck is his name? If they could do, what the devil was it? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I said, certainly I could play the devil. So I took a chance at it, and I had a ball, really. I eventually came out with that huge goat things up here, and I swear to God, I frightened myself. But it was quite, and it used to take between 4.5 to 5 hours a day to put on the makeup. And it was quite a makeup. The only thing is that you couldn't eat rice and beans because it would all end up on that lower lip over here. And they had to clean it all out.
We can talk a little more about this. This is, how did you like the McHale's Navy days? Making a
It was
television series
wonderful.
for that long.
You know, we did everything that I couldn't do in the Navy. Really, you know. And we got away with everything, you know. And that's why old Lead Bottom, he was just right for the part, believe me, because it was wonderful. And now today, I'm a regular member down there at the Navy Memorial in Washington, D.C., and I go in and tell my stories, you know, to these old timers that are there too, that went through the war in the Pacific and the Atlantic and everything else. And boy, you talk about swapping stories, that's really a place. And it was wonderful because, as I said, I did everything that I couldn't do in the Navy. Boom. Like surfboarding behind my boat.
This is from Gino Kirkland. What would be your most powerful advice in generating a career where one is in starring roles?
For one of my starring roles?
No, for one of his starring roles, I'm imagining. What would be your most powerful advice in generating a career where one is in starring roles? How do you become a star, I think is the question.
Yeah, good question, huh? How do you become
Exactly.
a star? I can't answer that. It's pure luck, pure, if you're seen, if you can display your wares, then you've got a chance. If you can be seen by somebody that amounts to something, that can see a piece of film on you or something and can envision, hey, I like that person and what they're doing, believe me, you stand a chance. But, you know, in this day and age, it's awfully hard, unless you got a pretty face and can...
And that's how you got by.
through it. Oh, yes, of course. And can throw a spear or do something, you know. But no, I'm a very fortunate person. I really am, because I'm one of the very few actors that ever got an Academy Award as a character actor, not as a leading man. And there are very few of us in the business that ever did that, and I happen to be one of them, and I'm very proud of the fact that it happened to me.
Well, I think it's because you're one of a kind, and what I would say, what I often say, I mean, becoming a star, that's you know, that's up to the gods and fate and everything else. I mean, as actors, you become the best actor that you can become, and someone who tends to stand out is someone who knows their own Tupperware, who knows what they're selling, and is like no one else. There is not another person other than your stepfather who is like Ernest Borgnine in the world. You know? There's no one else like him. And when you look at the people like Ernest Borgnine, when you look at the Spencer Tracys and the John Waynes, and these
You don't find them anymore.
No. You
I
know,
don't say for me, but look at the Charlie Bronsons or the Lee Marvins or anybody. I mean, that yesteryear, Bill Holden's. You ever see another Peter O'Toole that looked like Peter O'Toole? Nothing. They're just one, you know, of a kind. Thank God. You know.
And that's, you know, that's it. You just got to find out what you sell that nobody else sells, and be the best at it that you can be. And then after that, be in the right place at the right time, because there is so much luck involved. But you got to be ready for it, you know. This is from Ruth Blandford. When Marty was made, did the producers think he would be nominated for an Academy Award? I think we kind of covered that. Charlie McAllister, what is the secret of your great stamina and energy? Vitamins? Exercise?
No, I'm a lazy son of a gun. But I'll tell you, I look at life as a challenge, and I challenge it every day. And sometimes when it's so nice to sit back and relax, I make myself walk. And I make myself do things. And I said, no, I can't wait for that. Oh, give me 10 minutes more. No, get up and do it now. And if you train yourself to do that, believe me, you'll pop up and go at it. And that's what it's all about, you know, it's to do it now, not a half hour from now or 3 days from now. Do it now. And if you can keep that in mind, believe me, you'll think happy. That's what I said to what the hell's that singer besides Frank Sinatra?
Tony Bennett?
Tony Bennett. I said to Tony Bennett just last week. He said, "Gee," he said, "how do you stay so young?" I said, "Be happy." Be happy. Yes, that's it. Of course, be happy. And my God, he went out of his mind. Isn't that wonderful? But it keeps you young, it does.
See, but he practices what he preaches, and like I said, just spending so many hours with this man on the set, it was a ray of sunshine to everybody, an absolute ray of sunshine, and it was infectious. You could not be around Mr. Borgnine without just breaking into a grin. I tell you. From Lisa once again, LaJoy. If the Poseidon Adventure has another reunion at the Queen Mary, will you be there?
I think I've been about the only one there. Sure, I'd go. But no, I'll tell you, Poseidon Adventure, I understand they're making the doer and a remake right now. And God bless them. I think it's wonderful. You know, hey, listen, to each his own. They want to see that version? No, why not? You know. But it's sad to think that we don't have the people that can come up there and do something new, something different. You know, we have all the boy meets girl, girl meets boy, dog meets dog, so on and so forth. And it's wonderful, it really is. And they've done everything in this world possible that you can possibly do, but there's more to be done. And somebody's got to think of it, and that's why we have writers. But they've become so lax in their work by putting in so many swear words that it's terrible. And I won't do a picture that has any swear words in it. I'm sorry. I refuse to. They wanted me for this new thing that they're out. Oh, they also wanted me for the mafia thing. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, Sopranos. And are you talking
Sopranos.
about Deadwood?
And I said, if I have to swear, I won't do it. Never heard from them again.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadwood City.
Yeah, right.
I went out there and I saw the man, Milch, David Milch, oh, wonderful man. And I said, but I won't swear. Okay, thank you. And that's it. But hey, listen, I don't want to leave a legacy of dirty words. There's children in this world now that know more than we do. Well, no, there's nothing to be applauded about. It's why leave a legacy of dirty words to children who are growing up and want to see a good picture and hear all those words being said and say, Mommy, what did he say for? What is that for? What does that mean? This is how it all happens. And it's terrible. And I don't want that. I don't like to do that. And believe me, I know them all.
You did a little time in the Navy, yeah. This is from Oscar Garza. How did the New York restaurant Tequila Flats come to honor you by having a special night?
It's crazy. It really is. This people that own Tortilla Flats, a restaurant in Greenwich Village, they wrote me a letter one time. They said, listen, you may not know it, but we have a booth to the memory of of Elvis Presley and one to you. And would you mind very much if we use all these pictures and everything else? I said, no, go ahead. What do I care, you know? One day I went over there without letting them know, and there was a great hush. my God, he's here. It's people that were sitting in the booth, boom, out. And they had all my pictures all over, all kinds of pictures you can imagine. And it was all dedicated to me. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And every year they have the Ernest Borgnine look-alike, and 4 times there's been a woman that won it. To help me. Isn't that wonderful?
That's rough. Oh, gosh. Oh, this is from Michael Carter. What is your approach to playing a villain?
Playing a villain?
Yes, sir.
Read the script. See, this is where so many actors, they've got to get into the whole thing. They've got to, what is that word that they use? They got to, what?
Method?
No, not the method. They've got to, what is it? No motivation. They got to get into this. They got to go to where they can see it for themselves and do this and do that. And it's so crazy because everything that's on that paper is already done for you. Or just read the script and you can picture it in your head. Like I've said before, work out the thing in your head as the man who writes it, put it in your head. And then you can figure out what kind of a person you're going to play. A villain, greatest villain in the world. You don't have to act bad. Smile. Kill him. Kill him with smiles. And then kill him.
Okay, this is from David Hilberg. I grew up with McHale's Navy when I was young. Villain or good guy, which do you prefer?
Anything that pays money. That's what we're in the business for, isn't it? Darn right. I'll tell you, it's wonderful to make people happy and everything else, but you've also got to pay the rent. Mm-hmm. And you got to live. And you'd like to live nicely. And I think that's what life is all about. If we can have a job and a profession, because it is a profession, as long as we can make it pay for itself, why not? That's what life is all about. I don't see any $20 million people here. I see us, actors, here. And to me, very, very few of us will ever attain that $20 million a picture. Bless their hearts. If they're valued at that, good for them. If that's what they want to pay them, that's good. I've never seen a $20 million actor yet that I think is worth any $20 million. But that's my opinion. That's my opinion, please.
I think very few actors will ever attain 170 films, to be honest. This is from Linwood Sasser. What were the great roles you turned down, and any regrets?
The very first thing that comes into mind, I had 2 of them. One was called, that Anthony Quinn finally did, called the Heavyweight...
Requiem for,
Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Wow.
But it was an altogether different script. And I saw it and I said, gee, this could be made into something, but it just didn't fit because there were women in it. There was a woman in it that was playing the manager and everything else, and it just didn't fit. I know the one that they made with Jackie Gleason, he was all right, but it wasn't him. He wasn't the good guy that should have been, There was another one that was offered to me, and I turned it down because I was busy doing something else and really didn't pay much attention to it. And that was the one that the man who wandered around the country with his dog. Charlie, not Charlie, no. The one that Art Carney did.
Yeah. With
Is
his
that
cat.
it? Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That was a great film.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is from Lee. Tell us about your personal September 11th story and your work in the Penn film on the same topic.
Somebody said, turn on the television, and there was a building burning, and suddenly out of nowhere came another plane, and boom, into the other one. And I sat there. I couldn't figure out what the devil was going on. And I knew that something terrible had happened. But terrorists, in our day and age, you know, it's crazy. Are we the kind of people that really, I sometimes wonder, are we the kind of people that really leave people with a bad thing in their mouths? I mean, I've always felt this way, you know, we give out an awful lot of money to the world. And the minute you lend somebody money, you're really making an enemy and not a friend. And the very first thing you know, there's an awful lot of people out there that owe us a heck of a lot, that try to be friendly but are really not. And so you kind of wonder, gee, are we really that kind of people that are so bad that the terrorists want to kill us? I don't feel that. I feel that, I almost feel like I want to go over there and say, hey, wait a minute, we're not all bad, buddy, you know. But I'd probably have my first shot, boom, right here. And I'd end up in the street somewhere being burned or carried alive or something. Who knows? But you kind of wonder what the devil makes people tick to make the circumstances of what this world has become now. And I just talking to Harry Flynn, my publicist. I have a publicist, you know.
Yeah. You made it, mister.
And I was saying to Harry tonight, I said, you know, at one time I thought that as a parting gift in my lifetime, I was going to leave a full-page ad stressing all the things that I thought were bad, beginning with politicians in this country. And then I said to myself the other night, wait a minute. What if I get about 15 minutes or a half hour on a radio show? Heck, I'd even go down to Tijuana and put it in from Tijuana. But let it all come out nice and easy. What are we doing here? We have no one that we can really turn to. You go to see a congressman, and they'll listen, pat you on the back, gee, good seeing you. Don't forget to send $1 or $2, be wonderful, and that's it. Go to senators, oh, Mr. Borgnine, how wonderful. I get pictures now, George and Laura Bush, how wonderful. They call me a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I vote for the people that I think are best suited. And that's the only way I'll vote. And I think that with a half-hour television show, or not a television show, a radio show, and just vent our stuff, wouldn't it be something to get somebody's ear and make them think twice instead of just passing it off or sloughing it off? I've lived on my street. I had Ferrara come up to me. It's long since gone now. And he said, Ernie, where you living? I said, over here in Los Angeles, you know, the Beverly Hills, you know. And I said, and I lived on this street since 1965. And I said, you know something? The street has never been fixed. Got potholes in it and everything else to this very day. Don't worry, we'll have it fixed. Don't worry, we'll take it up tomorrow. Never happened. Never. So we get out there with our buckets, we fill it up with sand to do something. That's it. Keep it going. But who do you see in this world to make an impression besides a politician who won't listen to you? The only time they'll listen is when you give them money. And it's a shame that we have come to this kind of state that we're in, where we are now at war, and I support it simply because I have to support it with those fellas over there. Yeah. Are we going to back down on them? We can't do that. So we have to support it. but I don't like to see people killed. I went through one, believe me, more than one. I wasn't in but the one World War II, but all the others were bad, and I'll never forgive those politicians for Vietnam, which was never declared a war. Believe it or not. So you figure it out if you can. Next question.
Yes, sir.
No, it's shameful. It really is, you know. We don't stand a chance. We're just voices in the past, and hey, he lived a good life, God bless him, goodbye, and he's gone. That's it.
This one's from Robert Whitesky. I hope I got that right. Do you have any important stories to share with us while you were traveling in your custom-built bus? Thank you.
I sold a bus.
You sold the bus.
I had to. At 87, you know, 40-foot bus gets pretty big. I had a ball with it, though. I met people, the nicest people in the world here in the United States. I mean it. I took it to Alaska. I took it to everywhere. Anywhere that I could go, travel on a road, I went. And I never met so many interesting people in all my life. They were just marvelous. America is full of good people, believe me, they are. They are. And that's why I say to myself so many times, why do people hate us? Is it because of what our politicians do? Figure it out.
Now, what motivated you to get this bus and to travel? Was it just personal, or did you want to get out and meet people?
Well, I was working so many times. I had a boat called the Sunbum, and I think I had it for about 6, 7 years, and it just sat there rusting because I was always working. And one day I said, I've got to get rid of that boat, so I turned it over to a college up in Colorado, believe it or not. And they actually took it up there and scraped it out, finished it up, and fixed it up, and they still have it. But I said, one day I'm going to get me something, a Sunbum. And I had a picture painted in the back end of that bus of a bum going down the road with a stick over his head whistling, you know, and a hole in his shoe, and the birds around him singing, and way off in the distance you can see a steeple of a church. The most wonderful thing. People come by and say, "Hey!" And I had a train horn on there, a train whistle. I used to give them the old boop boop, you know. And every now and then, out in the middle of nowhere, I'd look at this fella and say, "Hey, is this the right way to Chicago?" Huh? That's what life is all about, isn't it? Have fun. And this is what I tried to do. And everywhere I went, people said, "Oh my God, who's coming in with that great big bus, you know?" And out would step Ernest Borgnine. Good God. You never seen such a commotion in your life.
This one's from Darlene Bell Grayson. What are some common mistakes made by mature actors, as if there are any mature actors, in pursuing a career?
Good question. I think the biggest mistake is when they get too big for their heads. And they think they know it all, and they let go of the people that really helped them along in the beginning. And then they think that they can make it on their own, and they don't need anybody else, and I've got mine, and the heck with you, and pretty soon everything starts to fall apart. Or those that believe that they are so big that nothing can ever touch them. I'll never forget, there was this wonderful guy who on 77 Sunset Boulevard, remember? 77 Sunset Strip.
Right.
Kooky, with his comb. God bless him. He had to leave the country to go out and get a job. He had to go to Italy and get a job. He couldn't find a work over here. Because one day, after all that, you know, he was the biggest thing going. I mean, women fainted at his approach and everything else. And all he had to do was bring out the comb, man. And that was it. And he made a fortune for other people who suddenly became his business manager, his publicity man, his personal manager, everything that you can possibly imagine. That's what happened to me right after I won the Academy Award. I had just bought, believe it or not, an old Cadillac, the secondhand, you know. Man, I had that Cadillac, first Cadillac I owned, and it was wonderful. I win the Academy Award, they took it away from me. I said, why? I want this car. No, you can't have that. And suddenly I had a business manager, a contract, a manager, a personal manager, a personal, everything, you know. And it was the most amazing thing in my life. And suddenly I was inundated with people, and I said, I don't want this. I don't need it. All I need is one person, my agent. Please, walk away from me. And, oh no, not until they had their share. But I finally got rid of them, thank God, by divorcing my first wife.
This is from Jeffrey John. Can you tell us about some of your audition experiences, maybe some early ones that maybe didn't go well or some that did?
I never had an audition that went bad. Really, in my day, I'll tell you one thing that I never did do, and that was stand in line in New York. New York, CBS had a thing there where they used to call a cattle call. And everybody would stand in line to go in and read a few lines, and for the director and the producer and everybody else around them, you know, and because they were going to cast for a picture. Now, this gave them a free reading, right? Free reading. And oh, yes, oh, God, oh, that's wonderful. Yes, don't call us, we'll call you, thank you. I never got to that point. I never went in there because I heard the people saying, I wonder what's happening. I could tell them what happened. They were having a free reading, and they picked out who they wanted, and they did the cast a show, and that was the end of it. But every week you got a free reading for nothing, and the cast and what the heck is it? The director and the producer and everybody else went from there on, and it was easy. But in the meantime, you're left standing at the gate wondering, gee, did I give enough, good enough? Did I do this? Did I do that? And you never had a chance. It's shameful. It really is. That's how a lot of us are treated, too, believe it or not. I know. My son, who went up before he got sense enough to go behind the camera, he went up there for readings and everything else, and yes, you're good, you're fine. Oh, wonderful. Yes, we'll use you. Oh, I said, how'd you make out? Gee, Dad, I didn't get it. Tough. I said, you know something? You love camera work. You love lighting and everything else. Why don't you get behind the camera? And he's doing very well. His hand was one of the hands that held the nail that was put into Jesus Christ, believe it or not. Mel Gibson said it was his hand, but it was my son's hand, believe it or not.
This one's from Charlie McAllister. Ernie, one of my favorite actresses was Katie Jurado. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay. Is it appropriate to ask some recollections of her?
Katy Jurado was La Tigre de Guadalajara. I don't know whether you understand that, but she was the Tiger of Guadalajara. She was an enormous talent, as you can well tell from just the scenes that she did in High Noon with Grace Kelly. She was marvelous. And, but as a wife, ooh, the hell on wheels, as they call it, you know? But she was a great talent, and I had all the respect in the world for her. She was quite a gal. And unfortunately, she died not too long ago, but she won 2 Ariels in her country, which are the equivalent of Oscars here, and she also had a nomination here in this country. So she did all right for herself. But ours was a wonderful but tempestuous kind of a marriage. And it was a lot of fun while it lasted. Hey. You know the way I always put it? You learn something. You learn something.
This one is from Xavier Urquieta from Bolivia. Do you have a good sense of humor? I think that's self-evident. I hope so because I created a cartoon from Marty and I want to give it to you. We'll give you that opportunity here. Oh, there it is right there. Where do you go?
You created a cartoon?
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wonderful.
That's not a cartoon.
Wow.
That's a work of art. Look at that.
You see this? Look at
Beautiful.
that. Isn't that beautiful? You do this work often?
An actor out of work.
¿De dónde viene?
Bolivia.
Bolivia.
Yes.
Habla en español, ¿no?
Sí, hablo en español.
Sí, cómo no. Qué bueno.
Gracias.
Bolivia.
I will publish a book with cartoons all about Hollywood, and I want to include this there, of course.
Muchísimas gracias, caro mío. Muchísimas
Fantastic.
gracias. Bueno. Qué bueno. Claro. Qué bueno. Gracias, ¿eh? All right. All right. Gracias. Isn't that wonderful? God
Here we
bless
go. This is from Nancy Kramer. How has Tova influenced your acting career? I am wearing Nirvana now.
What's this now?
How has Tova influenced your acting career? And she's wearing Nirvana right now as we speak.
How has she influenced my acting career? Golly, I don't know. I tell you one thing, she's gotten me out into to mix with people a lot more. I'm usually a homebody, you know. I refuse to wear a tuxedo anymore. Although I've got to put one on for this next week. I got to go to New York, believe it or not, to Ellis Island to be honored because my folks came from Italy. And they're going to put a medal around my neck in honor of my mother and father, thank goodness. And thank God they came to this country rather than Hungary or something.
It's the great American success story, you know, man. I was born in the Philippines, and whoever thought we'd get to be movie actors?
There you go,
You know?
there you go.
Here we are. This is from Paul Leonard. I loved you in John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Did you enjoy working on that film?
You know, very funny thing. John Carpenter sent me the script, and I read it. And I saw what I thought was a better part. And I said, we had lunch together over at the smokehouse. And I said, John, I said, look, I could play that taxi cab driver standing on my head. But I said, what I'd like to do is to play the warden. I mean, really, you know, so I've already got it cast. And I said, oh, golly, you really want me to play a taxi cab driver? He said, I know. He said, I wrote it especially for you. I said, okay, John, I'll do it. Well, we went to see the picture in the Screen Actors Guild, and so help me, Hannah. When I died, everybody went, oh. And nobody got a thing. Everybody else couldn't have cared less whether he died or not. It's amazing, isn't it? But thank God for Johnny Carpenter.
I think this is a good one to end on. This is from Mr. Phil Shapiro. Do you speak any Italian? Please speak some if you do.
Chi è che vuole? Vieni qui. Da dove vieni? Da dove?
Tennessee. Southern Italy. Yeah.
La mia mamma è venuta di Carpi, Modena, e il mio papà di Torino. Io sono stato in Italia quando ero un bambino, così grande, e sono andato alla scuola. E sono venuto un'altra volta e non potevo parlare l'italiano, ma adesso parlo un poco.
And you turned down The Sopranos?
Does that qualify me for The Sopranos?
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we can all agree. What an amazing night. What a wonderful opportunity. What a great honor.
Please. Fellow actors, it's truly my privilege to be your guest, believe me. And I thank you ever so much for inviting me. And I wish the best, the very best for all of you. And may I say just one more word. He and I are going to make more pictures together, and I hope you join us. We all want you in there. God bless.